Well, I will start by saying welcome. Thank you, everyone. This is the City of Milwaukee Bicycle and Pedestrian Task Force. My name is James Hanig. I'm with the Department of Public Works, and I staff the meeting for the task force. I'm just going to start with a few kind of organizational things as we get up and running here. I'm going to just drop a message in chat here just to let folks know first and foremost that we are recording the meeting, mostly for note-taking purposes. And then closed captioning is available through Microsoft Teams. If you want to use that, go to the top. If you're using the desktop version of Microsoft Teams, you can go to the top of the window and click on the three dots, and then navigate down to the menu option saying turn on live captions. Unfortunately, if you're using the web-based version, that functionality might not be there. The meeting's also offering American Sign Language interpretation, and if you would like to use that, please pin Jill Keenan-Cray or Derek by, again, clicking on the three dots next to the participants' names and then clicking pin so that you're looking at their image. I also dropped the agenda for the meeting into the chat so you can follow along. And with that, we can start with roll call, and I will just go through the members present. And if you can just let me know that you're here, unmute yourself, and when I call your name, and just say present or something. And I guess I would just also ask that this is a public meeting and people are welcome to participate. Please just raise your hand using the Teams function or drop a question in the chat, and I'll be watching that throughout the meeting. All right, starting with roll call. Caressa Givens.
Present.
Cynthia Telez.
Present.
Sorry, Tyus. Kevin Kushel.
Present.
Mitchell Hankey.
Present.
Nicholas Lajoie.
Hey, present.
All right. And for the records here, just going through, Montavious Jones, not present. Claude Crosscheck, not present. Daniel Rufus, not present. And Andy Tillman. They may join us later. So with that, I'll hand it over to the chair, Caressa Givens.
All right, so we just need to pass the minutes from last month. So if I can get an approval or a second.
Just for the record, do we have
Second.
a quorum?
Yes.
Yeah, and it does look like Montavious Jones. Hey, Montavious.
Hey, Montavious.
Chris, it's Nicholas.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, great. All righty. Well, I'm very excited to have Megan O'Connor here from the DPW. Megan is the DPW support for business liaison, and Megan and I had a discussion earlier this week about how other departments within the DPW can connect better with the Bike Pedestrian Task Force, and how we just want to learn more about what she's up to, and what are the liaisoning activities she's up to. And I'm not going to take up too much of her time. Megan, I'm just going to give you the floor, and we can ask you some questions after you're done talking a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. I will try to talk slow. Apologize. Sometimes I can get going. So I appreciate the opportunity to provide an overview on the Support for Business program and what it means to liaison here. A little bit about myself. I will be celebrating 9 years with the city this June. So it's been a career really focused on communication, customer service, problem solving, and building relationships like this. I started with the city as the legislative assistant for Alderman Murphy and went on to serve as the constituent relations manager for Mayor Tom Barrett. And then I joined DPW in 2018 as a support for business liaison. And before I get into the program, just want to give a quick overview of DPW Infrastructure Division. This division is responsible for the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of, all the streets, alleys, bridges, our lighting and traffic control and signs, sewers, you name it. So within the division, we have a major projects team, and that is made up of engineers that coordinate among all these entities to work on the design plans and reports for projects that receive federal or state funding. The support for business program is incorporated into these projects, major projects that receive such funding from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. This program was developed in response to the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2010, which funded numerous paving and bridge projects along major streets and commercial corridors in the city. So at the time, Mayor Barrett and Department of Public Works wanted to create a comprehensive construction mitigation plan to help minimize the impact on adjacent businesses and start looking at construction as in a new and positive way. It is an investment into our city. So this program helps minimize the impact on businesses through ongoing communication. We work with DCD and our business improvement districts to kind of make partnerships and build a list of variety of organizations that can help provide more of the operational side of running a business, such as financial tools, marketing, advertisement, the technical stuff that I'm not an expert in, but would be happy to refer a business to such an organization to get that help. We do create open for business signage that I'm sure you've seen along some of our projects. They are no cost to businesses because we want to try to help promote them and minimize any impacts that they may have. There are definitely challenges to businesses during construction, so we want to make sure the people are prepared, that they have a chance to create a plan, and even better if they can coordinate with other businesses on how to work together to make it work at the end of the day. So as a liaison, it's very important to educate the public on what to expect during construction. I mean, it's the key purpose. By educating the public on what to expect, we also want to let them know that we as the construction team can help resolve some issues or challenges that they may face. So for example, we can look at changing parking restrictions in an area to help increase available street parking. We can explore ways to maintain pedestrian access or look at how we can keep a business driveway to their parking lot open as long as possible. I, as a liaison, also provide regular communication on the status of a project, such as the progress of the work, traffic changes, or upcoming closures, because we want to make sure everyone is kept informed and they're aware of what we're doing. So as many of you probably know, the life cycle of a major project can take place over several years. From the different stages of design, which includes the public involvement component, to construction. And when I came on board, it was the start of a construction season. So it's taken a while for me to gain the experience and see how a project starts and from start to finish. As I'm getting more involved in the entire cycle of a project, especially in the design process and the public involvement planning, I'm applying what I learned from previous projects and trying to make improvements. So it's actually been really great to collaborate with the project engineers, the multimodal team, our ADA coordinator, and other stakeholders to look at how we can make improvements provide an inclusive environment to allow and even increase participation from businesses and residents in the community. I think we can all say we're working to expand our outreach to the surrounding neighborhood and make sure that the information we share can be easily understood by all educational levels, that the call to action is simple, that people understand why it's important to be involved and why it's important to provide input. As a city as a whole, we are really trying to look at limiting any barriers that may prevent community engagement. And I think that's kind of where my role as the liaison is expanding into for the department and all our major projects. So during the time of COVID, we had to quickly find new ways to remain in touch with the community, and we are continuing to explore what works and what doesn't work. So if I could share my screen, I would like to kind of walk you through one, where you can find the major projects, and then some of the new additions to help get more people involved. Is that okay? Cool. So let me make sure I'm doing this correct. Okay, so do you see my desktop?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So on our Department of Public Works homepage, under our infrastructure division, this is where you can find major road and bridge projects. It was formerly called Support for Business, and we changed it to major road and bridge projects to make it more user-friendly, so people know exactly where to go to find information on the projects. So with our major road and bridge projects, it is actually my goal to have more information on our landing page of kind of more of the background of the life cycle of a project and kind of what I explained, like why it's important to get involved and how to use our website. So if you visit our current projects, because of COVID, this really jump-started my goal of getting projects listed prior to construction. So we've been able to list most of our major projects through 2026 on our website. It's not a complete list, but it's a really good start. The projects are listed by the tentative construction schedule. A good example would be Howard Avenue. I'm just going to pull up this project. So you can see when a project is scheduled, and visiting each website page, you can actually sign up to receive project updates. We have created an online form so you can actually submit feedback and comments directly to the team, which I think has been a great addition to encourage feedback from residents. We've also posted community meetings. Luckily, the fortunate blessing with having virtual meetings is recording it. So we've been able to add our presentations to the project website, add the recording of previous meetings so people who were unavailable to attend can now still watch it, find upcoming meetings and how to join. And then overall, the project page website's purpose is to provide an overview. So what our goals are, what some of the informational facts are along the corridor, kind of what the purpose of the project is, the scope of work, and being able to review design plans or the options that the engineers have put into place that we're looking into potentially building during the construction season. I just want to quickly go over, I think with social media, and because of COVID, we have really tried to improve getting word out on our meetings. So going to Facebook and Twitter, even next door, we will post our public involvement meetings there, as well as on our City of Milwaukee main page. We have a calendar and events section where it's taking slower. It's at the bottom of the City of Milwaukee's main page. You can see the calendar. Oh, this isn't working. Okay, there we go. So you can also find our public involvement meetings posted on the calendar, just as another way to get the word out. So yeah, that is kind of a brief overview of my job and role with the Department of Public Works. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, first of all, Megan, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I do have to tell everyone, if you haven't visited our site or the city site in a long time, this is like a significant upgrade from the past. But we have about maybe about 6 or 7 minutes. So I'll stop talking. If anyone has any questions for Megan, that would be great. I do have one question, but I think I can save it. Anyone?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Megan, for presenting. Can you tell us what, do you normally work with individual business owners or property owners, or do you work with neighborhood groups in the communities?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I will work specifically with the businesses in the project corridor. And as I am trying to get more involved in the design, public involvement planning, I do look at all the stakeholders in the area. So if there's a business improvement district that's outside of the corridor, I will still loop them in. There's a neighborhood association. I try to get them on my list so they're aware of upcoming meetings, they're aware of the project, because we definitely want input from everybody in the area.
Becky has a question.
I have more of a comment. I have to say, thank you, Megan. Really nice job on updating the website. I also really appreciate being able to go back and review meetings, videos, because sometimes we get so busy with so many meetings overlapping. It's a nice way to go back and review. So a nice job, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's been great working with you, Becky. I know I have you on our list, as well as some other stakeholders, to make sure that you guys are involved in part of the process.
Also, one thing, another comment is, I do try to really have the disabled community to come out and make comments instead of it always just being me, because they can even add a perspective that I may not be aware of. And so at least it's nice for them to be able to go and see this. And so I think it's really well done. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Cynthia has her hand raised.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Megan, for that presentation. I guess one of my questions is: are there any ongoing spaces where maybe business owners can connect to you? I know sometimes it's kind of hard for community folks to, I guess, when there's maybe something that is already happening to go to instead, versus calling someone because they might not have the connection with. Is there any ongoing spaces that they can access to?
I guess if you can maybe clarify, because prior to COVID, I would actually walk the corridor and try to meet businesses face to face to introduce myself, to gather their contact information. I think that's actually one of the challenges, is that not every business has a website or can be found on Google. So I definitely want to make that personal touch of going and seeing them in person.
Thank you.
But I mean, if you guys have suggestions of, making more space for that, I would, love to hear it.
Yes. Thank you.
I guess I have a question and maybe a follow-up to what Cynthia was talking about. Do you essentially work really closely with the Department of City Development then in terms of connecting with businesses?
Yes, so that is definitely improving. So for example, one of my first projects was North Teutonia Avenue, the first stretch of it. And because I missed the earlier stages of the design and public involvement and just kind of started right at the construction, there were definitely things I learned. And because of that, DCD and I held a meeting specifically for businesses on the second segment of Teutonia Avenue the following year, where we presented on DCD resources and then also explain more of like what you can expect as a business owner, what we can do. So we really wanted to outline that. And I think we're just improving as we are moving forward with that relationship.
Okay, cool. I mean, it seems like that. Obviously not every single business is on a business corridor, but
right.
It's probably a good start in terms of maybe, Cynthia, what you were referring to as like another extension or space where people can connect with Megan. But who knows?
I've been reaching out to the commercial corridor and the DCD team members to say, hey, we have a upcoming project on North 20th Street. Who are the main stakeholders from DCD's perspective? Who are you working with? Can you connect me to those people? So we are definitely collaborating because other city employees have their own relationships, and so I'm just trying to build upon that.
Great. I know we're coming up on time here, but this is my last question for you because I think it's one of the most important questions I think I selected out of the few that I had. You and I talked earlier this week, and I was wondering, how do you think the Bike Pedestrian Task Force can support the work that you do or support major projects?
Great question. Definitely, I'm one member of an entire team, so I think there's room for or an opportunity to continue this conversation between the task force and major projects. I don't know if inviting or adding you as a chairwoman to my list to keep you informed of upcoming meetings to you to report to the task force, or if it's okay if major projects come and kind of does a report out to the whole task force to let you guys know what's in the works. I know with other cities, the task force such as this can make recommendations on a project. So that's something we could look into.
Great, that's good to know. I know that definitely excites a lot of people in this room, in this virtual room. And perhaps with our group, we can come up with some suggestions and bounce them off of major projects and you as a liaison and see where we meet, because I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but that sounds like a good idea. I don't know if anybody else thinks that. I have a feeling some people do, though. Well, Megan, thanks again so much for visiting with us. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for listening to the feedback we've provided about the website. It's looking better and better every day. So
Good. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Let's see. So on to an exercise that has been ongoing for us. If you haven't joined us before, something that we wanted to do in this new year is just take a look at our mission and vision for this group. I'm almost positive it's definitely assigned or embedded within our bylaws. And it's been a while since the mission and vision has been updated. And Kevin Kushel, our vice chair, has been helpful in moving us through this process. So I wanted to provide Kevin with some more time to get us to work through this mission and vision, and hopefully we can finish it off, Kevin, and put it in the books.
Yeah, that's my goal. As I was looking through it, I'm not sure we'll be able to finalize it this week, but we definitely will be able to finalize it next time, depending on how far we get today. So I'll begin by doing a bit of a recap. So last week, we looked at, well, our first assignment was kind of doing the Jamboard exercise where we talked about what we kind of see the Bike Ped Task Force doing. So I compiled those results and split them up into what our cause would be, our actions, what we would do, and our impact on how we make change. So we discussed these causes, these actions, and our impact last month. And through that, I want us to do a bit of a grouping exercise where we look at these words together and we group which ones seem to be on a similar theme, and then we name those themes. So for example, the pedestrian plan, the bike plan, the common council, those seem to be a theme to me. And that would be government, right? But that might not be what everyone thinks, and that's absolutely okay. That's actually perfect. And so I'd like to group these into different groups that we can name, like maybe one or two groups, 2 or 3 groups rather, and go from there. So this does require people to be interacting with this exercise. And through this Jamboard, I'll just move the ones that we decide belong together, circle them, and then name them as, you know, like for example here, pedestrian stuff. That doesn't have to be like that at all. But so yeah, so
Kevin, I just have two questions.
Yeah, what's up?
Really quickly. One, is everybody welcome to participate in this activity?
Absolutely. I believe the more input is the better.
Okay, great. Actually, it's the second thing is not a question, it's a statement, and it's going to be really brief. I just wanted to back up for those who have not been here before. The current mission of the Bike Pedestrian Task Force is quite simple. It's to make Milwaukee more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. So I just wanted to put that out there first and say that so people kind of have a little bit of context as to where we're headed now.
Yeah, also, if anybody has any questions on this exercise, please let me know. I'm more than happy to talk through this and make sure that it's clear for everyone.
What is this going to accomplish?
Would anyone like me to read what these words are in case we're hard of sight or anything like that?
Sure.
Okay, so for our cause, the different words that we pulled out were pedestrian plan, BPTF, which stands for Bike Ped Task Force, complete streets, transportation concerns, community and communities, neighborhoods, public, common council, bike plan, and I put city there just to make sure that it was clear, and resident groups. Do any of these seem like they go together?
Yeah, I think common council and transportation concerns go together, as well as complete streets.
Do you have a name for that you would like to put there, Montavious? Like, what is the theme there?
I'd say policy.
Mhm.
Kathy Brengos also added outreach and policy could be 2 categories.
Okay.
And Nicholas has his hand raised.
Oh, yeah, if somebody could let me know that. I don't have vision of that.
Yep, I'm happy to do that.
Great, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. It's Nicholas. So I'm just curious. All these terms came out as the most brought up themes from our last exercise, or is that kind of the methodology that we got to getting all these kind of in this space, or
Yeah, no, so if you remember, if we go back, 2 months ago, when we started this exercise, we split up into multiple groups and we wrote down the sentences of what we believe the Bike Ped Task Force should be, what we do, etc., like that. From those sentences, it wasn't the most, it was all of the words that were the action ones. I put as our cause. So more like, or not the action ones, the ones that were more like the nouns. So like who, what, where, those went into our cause. Our actions are what we do from every one of the sentences were put in here. And then our impact or how we make change were put into the third column. And so using those words, I put them into this Jamboard so that we could see it a little bit differently and then kind of group them into what we think are dominant themes. Does that make sense?
yeah, thanks. So I guess my reason for that question is if we've thought of something like communities and community, are those 2 separate distinct things, or are they the same? Could we put those together?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
one of
personally,
my
I think
first
that they're the
thoughts.
same, but I put them down like that because that's what was written in the sentence. So I
Sure,
literally just took
sure.
what was written from the sentence and put them,
Right,
separated them like
right,
that.
got it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we could open that to discussion. I kind of think they're the same thing too, but I mean, I could see how they could be different also.
Yeah. There was a lot of internal debate when I was putting these in there. I was like, I feel like this is kind of the same, but I don't know. And I don't want to mess with that process.
I
And then,
personally think it's the same, but
yeah.
yeah.
My other thought was initially here that pedestrian plan, bike plan, and complete streets seem to fit in my mind, they fit together as objectives, or I mean, you could also call those policy, or I mean, the plans aren't necessarily policy, but they're goals, they're policy goals, I guess you could say, or structures for policy, future policy. So I would put those together too. And that's my thought.
Great, thanks. I appreciate that.
Kathy has her hand raised.
Yes, Kathy.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I forgot to check my microphone first.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, and I agree with Nicholas grouping the pedestrian plan and the bike plan together, and like the complete streets plan under those are policy. I think of them as policy documents, you know, there's a difference between the outreach that we make in person to the community groups, to the various neighborhoods, and the different committees that we work with, and the physical documents that we create that are a documentation of what we're trying to do.
Okay. Could you repeat the first part that you said? I feel like there was a word that I'm missing here. So I have this as policy documents, but was there something else that you wanted to theme this as?
Not really. I mean, because,
Okay.
but like I said, the pedestrian plan, the bike plan, and the complete streets plan or policy, those are kind of actual things. I think there's a difference between the complete streets policy and the complete streets committee. You know, when you just say complete streets, it's not real clear to me what we're talking about there, because there is that body that we work with, or you know, that works with the Common Council, with the Bike Ped Task Force, and with and so kind of in my mind, there's maybe a category would be the organizations that we deal with, would be one way to think about it. I don't know if that made sense.
So for the PED plan and the bike plan, those are definitely policy documents. The complete streets policy is obviously a policy document as well, but it's also something like it's an implementation tool. And so just to be clear on what you're saying here, when you want to group these together, but also as a way to differentiate them, like policy documents and also their policy goals or structures. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess so. That's a fair way to
no,
say
I
it.
want to make sure that I'm summarizing what you said as true as possible.
Well, just to me, your policy goals would be contained within your policy documents. So
Okay.
to me, I don't know that it's necessary to have a separate category there, but
Okay.
I certainly understand why it's up there.
Okay. Okay, and then what was the other theme that you had mentioned? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I said outreach, and basically
Okay.
I was thinking like the communities, the resident groups, the neighborhoods, the people that we're trying to reach. And then I would put the Bike Ped Task Force with the Common Council, because that's a body that, you know, it's an official body that all kind of is supposed to function together.
Brian Peters added in the chat, could community be the generic Milwaukee community, while communities refers to the different populations, interest groups?
I definitely think that's a fair assessment.
I like that too.
So I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
No,
I'm trying to organize this at the same time. Maybe I should probably ask for help next time.
It's all good. Brian said, could community be the generic Milwaukee community, while communities refers to the different populations or interest groups? And then Cynthia added, communities, community, neighborhoods, public, resident groups, all equal stakeholders. And Denitra noted resident engagement. And I'm not sure if it was connected to that. I know Denitra's on the call if she's interested in chiming in.
This is still Kathy. I kind of like changing the whole outreach to changing that to stakeholders, because the community, neighborhoods, communities, public, all of that, I think I like the stakeholders category better than outreach.
Yeah,
do you want me
I
to
agree.
delete outreach then?
I think the outreach could go by.
I would agree with that.
Could go by, or like, does that mean delete it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
goes bye.
Oh, I was thinking by as in like it can go by me.
No, I'm terrible way to communicate.
Okay, cool. For the communities, public, and resident groups, I'm really sorry. What was the theme there?
Stakeholders.
Oh, so all of these are
Everything.
stakeholders then, is that correct? All of these?
So this is Nicholas again. I have an idea that we don't have to go with, but it's just a thought. Now, BPTF, Bike Ped Task Force, you have it under government body,
Yeah.
just mentioned. I kind of see it as separate of both of these groups and in between them, and as sort of a communication, a go between, a back and forth arrow going one way, arrow going the other way, as the community, neighborhoods, public, as informants of the Bike Ped Task Force, of concerns to our policy makers, the government bodies, and then reverse back to being an outreach to those community stakeholders, in terms of education and providing outlets for the public to receive information. So there's like an F-14 Tomcat flying over my head. Sorry about that.
It's not even
It's
August yet.
Becky also had her hand raised.
I was wondering, as far as transportation concerns, and you may not be able to answer this, but is that in regards to compliance? So I was thinking like under government body, I think it was thinking like governance or compliance, or is transportation concerns something totally beyond any guidelines, any standards, any requirements under PROAG, city policies, or WSDOT standards?
So I think the way that transportation concerns, and I don't think it actually belongs in government body. The transportation concerns are something that the government body could address, and it initially was grouped in here because of policy, I believe. But I think our cause was to address transportation concerns as a whole, and not necessarily related to government, but like what can we do as a somewhat government body to address transportation concerns. Does that make sense, Becky?
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was clarification, so that does help, because I was also thinking of this component of education for the stakeholders, as well as far as transportation concerns, that we need to also do this. And that's maybe why we can't do this. So that was where I was going with that.
So in a sense, then it sounds kind of similar to what Nick was saying about the Bike Ped Task Force, or BPTF here. It kind of serves as a sort of joiner between the stakeholders and government body. Do you see it that way?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Seeing our time, I'm wondering if we can move on to the next one, or did I miss something here, and would somebody like to add something real quick?
I would just mention that Denitra also added accessibility and safety in the chat.
Accessibility and safety. In what way are we addressing those concerns? Dimitri, did you want to clarify that, please? Is there more chat?
No, not yet. We can
Okay.
see if she chimes in. Otherwise, if you want to
Accessibility and safety.
Can I add my 2 cents? This is Becky again. Accessibility, that would definitely be under policy goals or policies, actually policy structure. And I would think safety as well, both of those.
So I did want to say that one of our actions is to be accessible here, which is something that we talked about last time. Do we want that to be one of our causes as well?
I think I'm okay with like keeping it in like So because the way I look at these three pots is like, okay, how am I building a mission statement from, from each category? And I
Right.
feel like our causes should be sort of like broad things, and then as we move through each one of these particular slides, it's a symbol of our mission. So, for instance, the broad causes, we take care of, let's say, transportation concerns are, let's say we threw that into the bylaws. Transportation concerns, there's no specific thing about it, but then as we move into it, we say, because of for these very specific reasons. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah, that's absolutely what we're doing.
Is that what we're doing?
We're taking we're taking like the specific things that we've discussed the bike ped task force can do and making it a little bit more abstract, right? And so as we do this, it is something that comes to mind when looking at this is like the bike ped task force helps stakeholders through policy documents communicate to the government body. I mean, we can obviously this is the exercise for next time, where we're drafting the statements based on these themes, which are a little bit more abstract, just like you're saying, Caressa. Does that make sense? Maybe I should have explained that at the beginning. So where would accessibility and safety go? Does
do we have accessibility or safety, these buzzwords, in the other documents?
We do have it here to be accessible. We do have in our impact for better and safer biking and walking as well.
Okay.
If I could make a suggestion,
Yeah.
they are probably could be all encompassing or whatever by being transportation concerns, I think was the wording, right? Like those are common concerns that come up, both lack of accessibility or unsafe situations.
So it's a bridge of sorts.
I hear that these are concerns, both safety and accessibility, and I think they're both extremely highlighted and addressed, and all three, the pedestrian plan, the bike plan, and the complete streets policy, very much in the forefront of those documents. So I don't know that we need another to add this on top of what's already in the documents as a separate cause. I mean, just by saying complete streets, that's
right.
Entailed in that is safe and accessible.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this here and then title it as like a bridge.
Now, I'd also encourage the task force. I know this didn't necessarily come out in the list, but racial justice and equity, I think, are primary goals that the city has, and I think the community has as well. So, keeping those at least in your mind as you continue the conversation would be, I think, highly encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely think those are really juicy themes for the following slides.
Cool. Well, I hope. Okay, we only have we only have 4 minutes left. Do we want to do this one real quick so that we can get some themes into this one? So that hopefully next time we can finish it.
Here's the thing. I have a special surprise for everyone at 5:25 that I think could allow you some more time into the next agenda item. So why don't you provide yourself with, just like a little bit, like give yourself 5 minutes.
Right now? So we're going to continue this.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So For our actions, the words and phrases that came out were advocate, partner with schools, agencies, businesses, local communities, to be heard, to be a resource, update, provide guidance, engage, be accessible, provide resources, advise, self-evaluate, provide expertise, support, and decision making. Are there any themes that jump out immediately? Like, how would we group these? I'm sorry.
This is Kathy. What if we looked at it as proactive versus reactive? Because there are some things that the task force would do that, we would go out and we would instigate or we would initiate some sort of activity, as opposed to reactive actions where people come to us and request certain things of us.
I like that idea. What words or phrases would you put under proactive or reactive?
That's hard to say. I mean, you look at a word like update, that could either be something that we proactively do, or it could be either one, but that, or like providing guidance, that would probably be reactive. To advise would probably be reactive. It kind of depends on how the action is initiated.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not helpful in terms of moving your words around.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's kind of given us a spectrum.
I do think that these all unfortunately, fortunately, all of these things could be both in circumstantial situations. But I just think ultimately it's important to have it. What Kathy said is it's so important to have these things floating, these words proactive and reactive over the top, because I think it prompts it just prompts more thinking. But I feel like perhaps we could find other categorical means for this. I don't know, Kathy, what you think, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, I guess we could make decisions as a reactive in a reactive situation and provide support. And we can also do that by means of proactivity.
Oh yeah, and truly, those were just the first two words that came out as I was looking at all of those things, trying to find something about them that kind of, some way to group them or how to think about them.
Right.
And
however,
sorry, that was my first stab at it. Sorry.
No, that's good. I appreciate
I love it.
100%, because I think in a perfect world, we would all love to be more proactive. And I hope it's gotten some people's gears turning about how we all carry out the business when it comes to these things. So anyone have any other categorical ideas?
I would just say in a perfect world, we wouldn't need to be proactive. That's all I would say.
You're right. In the perfect world, in the perfect painting.
We wouldn't need it.
Cynthia has her hand raised.
Yes, Cynthia.
Yes, I think so. I don't know why, but outreach. I think the word outreach is it's coming as kind of blinking in my head, and I'm thinking outreach as to go under engage, be accessible, provide guidance. There might be a few other ones if folks want to jump in on that.
Hey, this is Nicholas again. I was just thinking about it in my mind in terms of the two arrows on the previous slide, and actions toward elected officials versus actions we have with the community. And then I was thinking about what Carissa said, and I think all of these would pretty much apply both ways as well. I mean, we could be a resource to the community, and we could be a resource to the elected officials. We could advocate. Like it goes in both directions. The only one that kind of stands out as different is self-evaluation. That one, I like that one, but I don't know that it connects with the other ones. It's a very different sort of action of the group. So that's just my thinking on it. I don't really know what other categories you could put these in that wouldn't be working kind of both ways. Like, it seems like it works in kind of both directions for everything on this list otherwise.
Okay, yeah, so I'll put self-evaluate over here, as it is somewhat distinct from the others. Like, it's like the Sesame Street, which of these is not like the others?
This is Becky. I just kind of want to talk about self-evaluate, because that is a huge term used in the ADA world.
Mm-hmm.
Self-evaluate, and all state and local governments were required to self-evaluate their program services and activities and where they offer them, which public right-of-way is considered a service that we provide. So that is a huge word, and that could be both proactive as well as reactive again. So it is a little bit different, but it is a big buzzword in ADA world.
Yeah, and I am not. I don't think we're saying get rid of this at all. And I wouldn't want to get rid of this one. I think it's very important.
I was saying it's really important. But it's just very different than those other ones.
Truly it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Brian also said that he would put self-evaluate under proactive.
Under proactive? Okay.
I'm kind of seeing all these words as categorically as more specific than others. For instance, when I'm trying to articulate to a certain group of people that I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'm here to support you, instead of saying I'm here to provide my expertise and maybe subsequently I will, we will self-evaluate from there. I'll say as an initial touch that I will be here to support you. Do you know what I'm saying? Because some of these, words are just like a very broad word that could mean a lot of different things. But once you get into the realm of self-evaluation or, I don't know, even decision making, like that's when you start to start to tell people more about what it is you're trying to do, and you don't maybe want to cut yourself off from the possibility of what the group or what you could be as someone who's articulating what your actions are.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Anyone?
Yeah, I think so.
If I could make another suggestion too, is when you're thinking of this in terms of the task force and its future kind of mission and vision, who is doing the acting, right? Are these actions that the task force is taking on and responsible for? Is it actions that you are advising others take? I think that those might be some considerations to kind of start, as you start putting this all together.
Yeah, I also think another possible way to categorize these would be passive actions and direct actions, maybe. In terms of, to be a resource is more of a passive action. It's something where we have information available, but it's not like we're bringing it to the public or bringing it to the elected officials. That would be a more direct action. So maybe that's another way to categorize these.
Did you have any phrases or words that would go into the passive directly, or sorry, that would go into the passive or the direct?
So be a resource, be accessible, you could even say provide expertise and guidance are a little bit more passive than something like advocating and advising and decision making. I see those as more direct actions. engagement would be a more direct action.
Oh man, messing up my outreach. All right.
Kevin, you can have 4 more minutes.
I can have 4 more minutes.
Yeah, I know,
Great.
it's crazy.
Okay.
Because really, I mean, actually, I don't have a ton of updates. I've done something hopefully to expedite my time. That's why I'm giving you more time, and I'm totally giving it all the information away. But I do think that this is important. So, you know, give yourself. I'll just jump in and tell you, hey, stop. You know.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Here we go. Like, what's his name? Like, don't mess with my circles. You know who I'm talking about? Archimedes. You know, when he got killed by the Romans, he was like, don't mess with my circles. Okay. So we got basically one last out here, partner with school agencies, businesses, and local communities. I kind of see this as both passive and direct in a sense, but what do folks think?
This is Becky. I would say it's almost, to me, proactive.
Okay,
I
so a direct, more direct then?
Yeah.
Okay,
You know,
cool.
I think it just ties into what one of Megan's presentations, you know, talked about, working with the business communities, you know, at the beginning, being proactive.
Cool. So we have some bigger themes here. Let's go to the final one, our impact. And so our impact is provide equitable and inclusive pedestrian experience, enhance safe walking and biking, better and safer biking and walking, create safe, equitable, and affordable transportation, to redefine our streets as people places, to reprioritize safety of people first, to advise the Common Council, to elevate stature of bicyclists and pedestrians in enhancing quality of life within the city's culture, and to act as a liaison of the public with the city. Are there any themes that are grouping that are coming out of this that you can see?
I really like the providing equitable and inclusive pedestrian experience, but you could say more broadly, like a multimodal experience or something like that. But I like that one. It's nice. I like them all. Can we just put them all up there? No? All right, that's fine.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about getting broad themes to put into the vision statement.
Can I just say, when I'm reading through these,
Mm-hmm.
like advise the Common Council, I'm not, is that really an impact or is that an action? Do you know, because, and I'm not saying I don't like it, we should advise the Common Council, but if we're looking at our impact, the creation of safe, equitable things, to redefine things, those are more conceptual to a certain extent, as opposed to advising the council. I mean, that's an action to me.
Yeah.
And acting as a liaison is also an action that we kind of covered in the last page.
Yeah, that's not false.
I mean, it's just a thought. I'm not saying it should definitely come off of there, but that's just my thought as I read through these.
I think the acting as a liaison of the public with the city came as an add-on in our activity last week. The advise the common council, that was definitely in there. I can see it as both an action and an impact. Currently, we don't really advise the common council, right? But we do kind of act as a liaison, and our impact would be not necessarily advising the common council, but impacting the policy that the common council makes or decides on, right? Did you want us to modify that? We can modify it or put it in the other one.
Honestly,
I tend to agree with what you're saying.
I like the modification better.
I think Kathy has said it very nicely. So I'll say it a little less nicely. We can advise the council all we want. That doesn't mean we had any impact, even if we go to every common council meeting and we're a standing agenda item. If nothing changes, if it's still unsafe to walk and bike, then we didn't have any impact. So I don't think advising the common council is a really good measure of impact, nor is it acting as a liaison between the public and city. I don't think it's a good measure of impact. So I would advocate for removing both of these items from the impact statement.
Okay, and
I'm sorry. So Montavious, that gives me the idea though that maybe, I mean, what advising or as a liaison to the common council of the city is not an impact, but what would be the impact of those actions? I would think policy changes, right? Or could we change those to something like that, or affecting policy change?
I think we have those on this sheet already. So like provide equitable, inclusive pedestrian experience, that's impact. Create safe and equitable, affordable transportation, that's impact. Get the complete streets policy done, that's a very specific impact. One that we say, all right, we did that, there's no question about it, that was a goal that we accomplished. So when I think impact, I think of something like that, like a official, like we can point to it and say, this was the thing we set out to do and we accomplished that goal.
So if we put,
I'm sorry, this is Claude. Maybe advise the council goes back to the prior page. Things we can do in action.
Okay, but thinking about the impact, and I'm definitely okay with moving that, but thinking about the impact that would create, that would affect policy, right, essentially? So the impact of advising the common council would be to affect citywide policy, right?
Sure. We could elevate the stature of bicyclists and pedestrian. I think that's an impact it would have.
You know, again,
I think
first we need to be heard before we can have an impact. And that's the problem. I don't think anybody listens to what we're doing. You know, we need to be heard, and advising the common council is part of that, because we can't have any of these impacts if nobody listens to us.
The end goal is our impact though, and the end goal is not just to advise, but to have policy changes. And I think that was the sentiment of the having that on here was to give the task force some teeth and to provide it some actual impetus to make changes at the city legislative level, which I feel like there's been a sense that hasn't been there in the past, and that it's falling on deaf ears. A lot of the ideas that come out of the task force. So that's kind of where I think it came from.
Could an impact then be to establish the Bike Ped Task Force as a credible resource? Or maybe credible is not the right word, but
like relevant?
Maybe relevant.
A valued partner.
There you go.
This is Becky, and back to advise the common council. I'm thinking maybe advise and educate the common council. There may be occasion to educate the common council on state statutes and how that affects design, federal law, and maybe what's even in our own ordinance or lack of what's in our ordinance.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Kevin, how do you feel?
I'm wondering if we can come up with themes for these to
Yes.
name our impact.
Yes, we can. The three that should go together are establish the bike ped task force as value partner. The one below that one should go with the and elevate stature of bicyclists, elevating biking and walking in the city to a legit thing that people should do safely. And then I think the other ones go together.
Okay, and did you have names for these themes?
No, I talked a lot, so somebody else come up with the names. I got them all together. Because I think one has to do with like the status of biking and walking in the city, and the other one has to do with the actual infrastructure that would support that new status.
I wouldn't call that status of biking. I would call that status of BPTF.
Oh, I thought I said biking and walking. I'm sorry. I meant both.
Where are we? What are we referring to? Which
In
part?
there, it just says status of biking. I meant to say biking and walking.
No, in the red heading.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Is everyone cool with these themes? I like them.
They're good working themes.
Thank you.
I think that you talked about trying to finish up this exercise next time we get together, and I think that we're definitely that much closer. So if y'all don't mind, my last question for you, Kevin, is so what do you plan to do with all this stuff?
So what we're going to do next time is take these and break off into small groups and reword the vision statements that we previously created using the themes. So
You mean the mission statements?
Yes, the ones that we did are in the first one. So we'll come up with something that addresses all three of these, our cause, our actions, and our impact.
Okay.
And we'll be using these words or phrases to create those sentences. And then we'll come back together as a bigger group and discuss which one we like best.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Kevin before we move on?
This is Becky, and I'm just thinking about status of biking and walking in the city, and I'm just thinking the impact is we would want the acknowledgement of the bike pedestrian task force within the city as far as the go-to.
Do we want to limit ourselves to be so narrow, though? Like
Pardon?
that like the idea of this is to be a little bit broader.
Could I suggest this? Elevate the status of BPTF.
That's good.
Did you want me to change that theme then?
Yep. Elevate our status.
Okay.
No spell check, huh?
No, did I misspell something?
Elevate. Is that
I
right?
did. I'm
Infrastructure.
usually really good at that. Pardon me. Okay.
Claude, who needs to know how to spell when they've got you?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so if there are no further comments, then we'll close this episode.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much for taking us on this journey. I know that these aren't always the most exciting things for everybody to participate in, but I like to think that people that visit us from the public are seeing some rejuvenation and reconfiguring of this group to refresh it. And these are really important things that we want to share with the public if they have, so that they have an opportunity to weigh in as well. Here's my little surprise. At 5:25, I sent off a message to everyone who is a member of this group. And it's just a feedback form to ask you about subcommittees that you would like to be a part of. Now, I know that we have a bylaws and membership subcommittee pack already stacked up to go. However, we do need to know what times those groups would be meeting. So you're going to pop in over in your email and just fill out the feedback form. And I'd like you to do it. I'd like for you to do it tonight, because I would definitely like to get the membership and bylaws subcommittee up and running this month. So we might have to create a special date for that and then set a standing opportunity in the future. But I really like to get that crack-a-lackin', or as others say, get that going. That is what I have to say about that. If anyone has any questions for me, please let me know. But I look forward to meeting with all of you, or at least some of you offline, because being a part of a subcommittee is not a requirement, if that was one of your questions.
Carissa, maybe just wanted to bring up, so technically there are there are 3 subcommittees that are established currently. So it's a policy and projects, the bylaws and ordinance development, and community engagement, which never met, never formed. But I don't know how much you want to get into this agenda item, but I know previously Montavious, not to put you on the spot, had a really interesting idea about the sort of development work groups, workshops. Was there any thought of whether the current subcommittee landscape is what you would like to use going forward, or are there new topics or anything that you wanted? With new members, obviously, there's a good opportunity to kind of fill in some of those vacancies and consider if that arrangement is working best for you.
Oh, goodness, James, the last, I think, 3 sentences that you said, you broke up, and I think that they were really important sentences. So the last thing that I heard was,
No, I heard them and they really weren't.
Okay, well, that's a conversation for offline. That's funny. So I think what you're saying is, do you want to go down the path of a subcommittee structure instead of considering a different style of working to come to similar conclusions on those various topics? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. I mean, I think it's more the topics than anything. I think they would probably still have to be on paper subcommittees, just by the arrangement that is kind of allowed by the current bylaws, but more are those topics where you want to be putting time right now? And I'm assuming yes, but I just want to put that out there since you have the agenda item.
So the last time we all met, I put up the top 3 areas that people said that they wanted to address. And we got the most response, I believe, from I'll call them the planning and policy realm. And we got the most initial responses of just, I asked about subcommittees initially as well. And we got a lot of initial responses about bylaws and membership. And I'm going off of the JAM board. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'm trying to go off of basically the things that rose to the top based off of the last feedback opportunity I provided, and even down to more specific things within those areas, such as snow removal or Vision Zero or, scooters. So I think that my reasoning was just based off of what rose to the top. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm not answering your question thoroughly.
No, that's fine.
I'll open it up to other
it.
people and maybe you want to circle back with what Montavious was talking about, because I might have missed that.
What I suggested, I believe what James is referring to is, I suggested that this seems like it would work for the plans and policy committee, kind of a development shop working format where we say, these are our 3 goals. We're working on these 3 goals and nothing else. Don't come to the subcommittee asking about other stuff that's not related to this. We're putting our nose down and we're getting these 3 things done this year or next 2 years, whatever it is. I think that's a good working model. So we don't, get off on tangents about different things and end up not producing anything. So I think that's a good working. I could be wrong. That might not be the format we want to go with, but I think that's something that will give some legitimacy to the group. Is like with the complete street policy, we went before the council, we got it all approved. So that showed, okay, this is a group that gets stuff done. They set a goal for themselves and then they got it done. Here's the proof of it. It's law now. That's what they did. And I think if we do stuff like that more and more often, then that'll lend itself to making us a more legitimate group.
Yeah, of
In
course.
other words, it would elevate the status of the bike ped task force and our impact. Is that what we're doing?
Bingo.
I know that sounds like a heavy lift, Kevin. I actually, I was hoping to work in that style. I think it's, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the subcommittees are places that we can achieve that style of work, and I hope that that's how we do that. We do have like a bylaws subcommittee, and we have a projects and policy, like the existing subcommittees. They're kind of the same, to be honest. They're basically the same. Are they not? Bylaws subcommittee.
Honestly, when I was looking at, when we were talking about this, back in like January or February or whenever we started again, I don't remember, but it did seem like
Kevin's got a bad connection.
There wasn't really a change. It was kind of going with the same subcommittees as before. We just kind of gave them a name. I think what would be different is the way, as Montavious was talking about, the way that we approach the subcommittees. In terms of like, we're doing one project, we're focusing on one policy change and advising the Common Council in a sense.
Okay. Well, I'm open to hearing other ideas about all of that stuff. I still want everybody to fill out the form, just get it done, and we can, hopefully get a subcommittee meeting in the books where we could maybe discuss this a little bit further. But thanks, Cynthia, for being on the ball and filling out all that information ASAP. When I sent it out a million years ago, you get a gold star. I think that we could move on if that's okay, unless anyone has any other suggestions, because it's like 5:02 and I just have a few announcements. Okay, so there's some really cool things happening in Milwaukee. One, quickly, I would like to let you know that the Milwaukee Safe and Healthy Streets, Active Streets Alliance just released their 2-day summit. So I put that link in the chat. It's a free 2-day summit virtual. The first day there's going to be a group ride from 4 to 7, thanks to DPW, 16th Street Community Health Centers for their partnership. And we're going to explore a couple of different bike boulevard corridors together by bike and learn about what the city's doing around their engagement efforts, which I think are changing and evolving, and they're, it's all for the better. Like I said, I put that link in the chat. The other thing that's happening is literally this weekend, which is kind of related. 16th Street and DPW with James as a project manager and Tool Design are going to be doing a public involvement meeting. I think it's the second large public involvement meeting that they've conducted on the street, which is good, on the corridor where the people are. And they're going to open up their public involvement for comment, and they're going to ask you about a lot of different aspects of the public right of way on that particular street that's set. James, when are you supposed to be when is the project supposed to commence?
The project? Like construction?
The construction.
So this is the Washington Scott Bicycle Boulevard project that's in the works, and it's currently scheduled to start construction in probably spring, summer 2022 next year. But
Alrighty.
This meeting is to share the conceptual alternatives and get feedback from neighbors on what they think of that.
This is really exciting. The first public involvement meeting we had by Walker Square, I think a lot of people turned out just because we were catching lots of people that were actually just going in the park, maybe walking their dog or something like that. So I thought it was a success. And I've shared that in the chat. Let's see. Public involvement meeting. Oh, congratulations to Montavious for being admitted to the America Walks Walking College. Montavious, could you just quickly share with us what you're going to be up to with those folks and how we might be able to get involved in the future?
I will try. It's early for us. Still, we just started this week with our classes. So the Walking Fellowship is a fellowship put on by America Walks, where the fellows come up with a walking project for their community. People have done intersection interventions, help create complete street policies, walking cohorts for elderly people, things like that. I don't know what my project's going to be yet, but I will once I figure that out, or in conjunction with I would love it if it was in conjunction with the Bike Ped Task Force. We could come up with a project that I could take through the Walking College. We're also maybe even through the subcommittee, the Plans and Policy subcommittee. So yeah, that's where we're at right now, and I will keep you guys up to date with how it goes.
Cressa, we can't hear you.
Oh, all I said were good things. Congratulations again, Montavious. And lastly, I'll say Kevin Kushel and I had a great conversation with Cheryl Blue from the 30th Street Corridor about the future of the 30th Street Corridor and the trail and the development that needs to occur, the development plan that needs to occur around that neighborhood to support all the exciting things that are coming down the pipeline. And Kevin and Cheryl got along swimmingly. I'm glad I didn't get a word in edgewise, which is very rare, as some of you know. They really filled the room with a lot of good stuff, which I'm excited about. And Cheryl has invited our group to contribute to the development process once they start to get involved in the development plan, which is really exciting because maybe one of you could be sort of like the liaison for that particular process. I don't have a ton of details on that. I will definitely share more as I hear more. I did communicate with Cheryl today just asking for some clarification, because I don't want to misspeak, but I'm just excited for us to be a part of that and be allies and advocates for that process to happen in an equitable way. So those are all my announcements. If anyone has any last announcements or anything that they'd like to share, please do now, and then we can adjourn.
I have a question and then a comment.
Sure.
Do we know how many people we have as active, what do we call it, board members?
Yes. Well, let's see. I'm looking at my chart right now. I think we have, I want to say
10.
We have 10.
Nine. Sorry. Yeah.
It's like, wow. Okay.
There's a vacancy. There's a vacancy for the DPW representative, and the MPD safety professional has not showed up for quite some time.
And we have a vacancy for a person that we would like to meet.
That's right. Apologize, my math is off.
With disabilities. Rebecca, hit me up.
Okay. Thank you for that. To all the fellow board members on here, one, thank you for your time. This is a volunteer position. I know you have other things to do with your life, so I really do appreciate you guys being here. I will say, I would encourage people to, if you can find the time or make the time, like, we need more people on the subcommittees, according to this email. That's where the work is really gonna get done. So if we're in here because we're committed to seeing a better Milwaukee for bicyclists and pedestrians and people using mobility devices, then we gotta actually put our money where our mouth is, and like, we gotta do the hard work. It's not gonna get done unless we do it. So take some time, think about it, and really consider if you can serve on one of these subcommittees.
All right. Thanks, Montavious. Anyone else?
So I would just like to let everybody know that I'm the chairman of the Quality of Life Committee for the Downtown Neighbors Association, and we had a good 2-hour session today with representatives from Lime, Spin, and VO scooters about their plans for scooter service in Milwaukee and how they're willing to work with the community to make sure that problems are addressed. So I felt good about that meeting. We had representatives from the Downtown BID and Historic Third Ward Association, Westtown, Easttown Associations, along with other board members from DNA. So it was a good meeting, and it kind of connects with what we're doing. But I just want to report that happens, and I think there's some people who want to make things work well there. So we'll be happy to be part of that.
And then I do have one last thing to share.
All right.
It'll be for the next for June. Actually, through 16th Street, we are launching our summer walks and bike rides, which will be 4 different locations. Burnham Park on Tuesdays. On Wednesday, it'll be at Walker Square. Thursday, we're starting the new one at Pulaski Park, and then Saturday at the Hank Aaron Trail. And all of those will be, so the ones during the week will start at 6 p.m. and then on Saturday, it'll be at 8 a.m. So we'll be sharing, we have more information coming out on the Facebook, the Latinos por la Salud page, as well as the 16th Street. But those will be the updates. So I know I'll probably be running late on Wednesday next time, because I will be finishing here and then going over there. So please join us if you ever, anybody's welcome. But that's all for me.
Maybe we should just have the next meeting at the walk. Thank you so much, everyone. I just a reminder to members, if you do want to add some updates, events to the end of our meetings, you're welcome to share them with me ahead of time so I can get like links and stuff all queued up, if that helps. I'm going to make an motion to adjourn if that's okay with everyone. And
Carissa, one quick
James,
thing.
Go ahead, James. Sorry.
I should know this, and I should have asked you. Since June is the next meeting, is anything planned for Wisconsin Bike Week, or is that delayed?
Hey, that's a really great question, James. We're actually doing Wisconsin Bike Week in September. So it's a big change just because of the way COVID has, treated everyone. we're gonna take a little bit of a break and focus on some other things. So look out for that. I think it's like the 13th through the 19th. But I'll let you all know firmer dates next month. Or if you follow me on social media or something, you will definitely find out, or the Wisconsin Bike Federation, excuse me.
Sounds good. Carry on.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. I gave you too much time, Kevin.
I'm sorry. I really want to get this done.
It's my fault. Take care, everyone. Happy
Bye.
Interpreters Day. Okay, bye-bye.